Hey guys, Mike here. So finally made it back from vacation. Appreciate all your comments, your support and everything, especially the feedback on last week's videos. Hopefully you got something out of those. I really enjoyed putting them together for you. Obviously, I'm not a fan of CrowdStrike or Microsoft at the moment because my flight got canceled. My flight was scheduled the day that whole debacle happened around the world. And so it was fun trying to get back here. Just got up from a 3-hour nap after not sleeping for more than 24 hours because we flew into Dallas at midnight and no other flights leave until like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So fun times there. So glad it's over, but it was a great vacation. I'll end up putting like some videos and stuff to show you what we did and everything, because if you've never been out to San Francisco and took that drive up towards Portland, then boy, you're missing out. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous, amazing time. So again, appreciate all your support on that. So in this video, to get my feet back underneath me, we're going to go into what the latest of what Jim Carson had to say and basically what happened last week, what to watch out for, which is extremely important, coming up here, going into the rest of this week and next week. And then we'll go over a couple charts that if you're a person who likes to dollar cost average into your long-term portfolio, these stocks, might want to be on the radar. So we'll look at those as well. We'll talk about Tesla, something going on there, and then we'll go over earnings and all that fun stuff. So first, let's go over, obviously had a big drop last week in the mega caps, a lot of stocks obviously, and rotation into others. And he's going to go over basically what happened, but also what to look out for. A very short video here.
What was Wednesday? It was VIX-piration. People have been following us for a while. No, VIX-piration is the opening of the window of weakness. We haven't talked about July opening. We talked more about August and us getting through the summer. Mm-hmm. That's a window of weakness. Mm-hmm. Importantly, the vol trade is central to this whole operation, mm-hmm. right? What do I mean? The vol supply at the index level is what's caused this historic dispersion. And the short gamma in NVIDIA and a couple of these other names was forcing a two-directional move, right? Because the index is pinned and one of the parts of the market is squeezing, the other part has to go the other direction. Now, the other side of this trade is if people are long calls or long gamma and the dealers are short it, if that momentum can even slow a little bit, which it started to about a week and a half ago, that starts making dealers who are now short those calls and long stock they're short gamma. They have to sell that VANA. They have to sell those deltas. And so we started to see the weakness. And it wasn't strong weakness. It was just consistent selling in those names. Mm-hmm. But it opened the door for the weakness now that we're seeing. We talked about this several weeks ago. The fragility that's been created in this market by taking a name like NVIDIA, which in 22 was left for dead despite all of the AI truths about it, because of the fears of an invasion of Taiwan. People did not want to invest in NVIDIA because it was considered somewhat uninvestable because of the existential risk. Nothing has changed there. I would argue that we're marching towards a higher probability of that happening as we move forward.
Geopolitical issues?
Geopolitical issues. And to be clear, that's an existential risk to what was the biggest company in the world.
Do you think this is why we're getting hit in the last 48 hours particularly?
It's a combination of, it can drive a narrative change, mm-hmm. Which is important, but it's hitting NVIDIA right at that moment when those calls are decaying and that momentum is waning.
Okay.
Now, third piece of that puzzle, why is this so dangerous, is at the end of the day, if the index vol is still pinned, which it is currently, right, and Russell Gamma and calls are now being bought, Druckenmiller bought a tremendous amount right before that move. Other people have also piled in. You're going to start to see a squeeze in those names. And if the index is pinned now, something has to go the other way. And so what's weak, right? The problem is, unlike the original rotation, when you start hitting the generals, mm-hmm. you get people caught. People have been really squeezed into those names.
The net move is not positive from a momentum and a math standpoint, right?
Correct. So this NVIDIA complex, what's happening in there is critical to what we're seeing, and it's happening right in a window of weakness, right on time, right? So you have to treat this with respect. The S&P just broke its 20-day right before I came in here. We've got a quick 15 points down. Yeah. The next stop is the 1 standard deviation down on the S&P, which is another 50 points from here.
Okay.
That is a critical point. And the time of another week or week and a half here is critical too. That also lines up, by the way, with, right where unched on the month. Why is unched on the month important? Unched on the month is important because that's what drives, that momentum factor drives a reinvestment at the end of the month. So the flows that can come at the end of the month to support and push this thing higher are dependent on what happens here in that period.
Okay, so if you're down at that point,
so if we break down below that, exactly, at the end of the month, now the flows turn from positive to negative.
Mm-hmm.
And then what sits on the other side of this expiration, the next expiration is SEP. Big quarterly OPEX, a lot of short interest on the put side out there, right? Okay. There's an election, behind that where the vol is also weak.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Expectation for the first Fed move too.
Exactly. So vol has been well supplied here. It's well supplied because the July OPEX, you're able to sell puts to the downside, buy things behind it, generally get into cheap vol. But after this OPEX, that may change, and that may change pretty quickly. This is an opportunity to get your hedges while you still can.
And so 2 key things to take away from that. If you get all the VIX, the charm, all that stuff, but VIXpiration is a big thing. If you see a big move up, if you're going to see weakness, it kind of just frees up the market to move the opposite way, right? And so the other thing is he's not saying, hey, got to hedge, got to hedge, got to hedge. Obviously, if you want to hedge, the time is to do it now. But it's to watch this last week to see if we end up going to negative flows or we stay with positive flows. So that is the key because August is iffy. It can be good. It can be bad. It's kind of a coin toss. September is usually a complete disaster. It's the worst month of the year for the stock market. Don't mean it's always going to be that way, but the odds are that way, okay? So just let's watch to see how the last week plays out and see which way we go. But when he's talking about this 20 SMA right here, yes, we did drop below it. That's when they were putting that video out, but we bounced on this trend line, right? And now we closed above it today. And so we're back above it. Again, that was the third touch on this trend line right here, moving up. So we'll see if we're going to end up moving up right here into this fair value gap. Maybe grab some more liquidity, maybe reject off that trend line right above. That's what we're going to wait and see come into tomorrow and stuff. Again, we got big earnings come in tomorrow, which we'll go over as well. And so that has held right now. But if we end up coming down and breaking that trend line right below it, I mean, it's decent support right here. Right? Between 5,448 and like 5,465, like somewhere in that range is where you want to be looking at if that happens. When you look over here at the moving averages, again, another thing that's going to help you there is the 50 is going to be moving up there. I don't think we've hit the 50 in a little while here, as you can see. And when we flip over to the SPY, if weakness does continue, you can see we came down here, we mitigated some fair value gaps, grab liquidity. But if we continue to sell, it kind of almost goes in the same line as this right here. You got this trend line, the 50 moving average right there as well. It's going to meet up around 542 on the SPY right there. If, and that's an if, we continue the weakness going into the rest of this week and next week, okay? So that's a line to kind of watch and see if that happens or not. Because again, that trend line has been in place for a decent amount of time right there. So if it broke that, yeah, you would definitely see some algos getting triggered and obviously, some more selling. But again, keep reality where it's at, right? We only dropped 2.5%. It seems like more, I realize. But a lot of this depends on the RSP as well. Like this breadth, does it continue or not, right? Because we got this huge influx of breadth came up, tried to hold the, what would be a old all-time high, broke back through it, closed back above it today. When it did come down, you can see it did hold the level right here around 169.16 right there. And so that's a good thing. That's where it's bouncing right now. We'll see if this continues. We'll see if breadth continues to push up. I mean, that's a crazy move up, right? And I always say when you get a move like this, you're going to have it get digested by the market. That's just the way it is, okay? And so watch that level right here. I'm going to move this up around 167.81. We'll see if that continues to hold. Got a successful retest of that. We're above the old all-time high right there. So we'll see if breadth continues to push or not, or fade. And again, IWM, can't leave us talking about this one before I went on vacation. Huge, explosive move up. We didn't get the retest I was hoping we would get on the 2024 high, which is a pretty big level. We didn't get that. I said it can keep going, and it did, right? We got a bunch of different gaps. Obviously, that was a massive, I mean, look at that move. What was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically in 4 days, man, I mean, that was crazy. Didn't reach all-time highs, right? Came down a little here. Now we closed back above 220.29. I remember what started this move? All about the rate cuts. Told us this is the third time we've been through this. Now it's at a 90, almost 2% chance they're going to cut rates in September, supposedly. That's what the market's saying. And then November, right around 96%, right? There's going to be some form of a rate cut. And if it doesn't happen, guess what? they'll just reprice it. That's what they do. But again, we've seen this before, where all of a sudden all this money is pushing big tech up, and you get this huge flush down really quickly, and the money quickly goes in there. And that's what he was talking about with all the call options. I mean, the call sweeps are just going crazy for IWM, right? And the puts were flying in for those mega caps because they've been run up so far. And now all of a sudden, you're starting to get this turn where they're going up, IWM starting to recover a little bit. And again, just pay attention to breadth and see if small caps and those large caps can move up at the same time, or big money starts going towards a safe haven, which is the large caps, right? Now, when you look at CrowdStrike, obviously the debacle they had, whether it's Microsoft's fault, their fault, around the world, I mean, this right here is a straight up falling knife, right? I mean, it is down massive in a very short amount of time. This is a company with good growth. We don't know what's, going to happen after this, whatever. It's broken down between all the moving averages. And so a lot of people will start dollar cost averaging here. There's no doubt about it. Could it continue to fall? Absolutely. I mean, literally, when you look at a chart like that, that is a falling knife, right? It's hit a decent level right there, a key level. And when we pull the fibs on it, you can see it hadn't quite reached the 0.50 Fibonacci level right now from where it started that move. So could it fall farther? Absolutely, it could fall farther. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if you're a DCAer, into a company that still has a lot of growth and all that good stuff, and yeah, it's something to look at, and they don't have earnings for quite a while. So we're not really going to know the damage of, what this is called. I know Elon came out and said they removed CrowdStrike from all of their systems. Who knows who else is going to do that? And the problem we're trying to catch a falling knife a lot of times is, when is this news cycle going to stop? Like, when is the bad news going to stop? As you can see, Sentinel-1 says they're kind of picking up customers now. We'll see if PANW does that. As Palo Alto picks up customers from this. And so, because CrowdStrike, it's in a lot of systems, and this ain't just airline related, obviously. This is all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's affecting around the world. So not good for a cybersecurity company at all. So kind of keep that in mind. But again, it is a solid company. Now, when it comes to Chipotle, right? Down big, sitting here almost at the 200 moving average right now, which is always something to look at. Again, it's another one for a DCAer because it had a lot of growth to it. It's not going to move like it used to when it was sitting there with 50 million shares and going rocket ship or anything. But again, the growth is good, but they have earnings coming up, right? So that's what we're going to have to find out, what they see on the horizon, what they're projecting. But, down 24% from the top, sitting at that 200 moving average. And there's another one we pull up the Fibonacci level. You can see it's reached the 0.50 Fibonacci level since that major run it went on. And so, something to keep in mind. Again, 200 moving average, 0.0 fib. Could get a bounce from there. Could it move down lower? Absolutely. I know a lot of people are targeting like right below 50, between like 45 and 50 bucks. But a lot of this depend on earnings, right? They come out with killer earnings and all that good stuff, good projections. This thing could just take back off. And so that's something to look at. Again, if you're, a long-term investor and everything, those are two companies to absolutely look at. Again, not financial advice. Do what you want to do on that. Now, when it comes to Tesla, you can see right here, since I left, obviously it bounced off right here, which was that trend line. It held, which is a good thing, right? But it's really done nothing since. All it's done is sit here and wedge. Why is it wedging? Which this can go either way, by the way, in this triangle formation, because you have earnings coming up tomorrow. So, I think that obviously you get really good earnings, because remember, this move is on AI, right? All about AI, all about robo-taxis, all about that robot, all that fun stuff. They haven't showed a single cent to the bottom line on any of that. That's what this pump was all about. And so if they get on there and start delaying robo-taxis and doing all this other stuff, could it go down? Yeah, that's why this formation, it can go either way, up to 300 or down to around probably between 215, somewhere in there. And so keep an eye on that, keep that in mind. One thing to also be aware of is if we have good earnings, or even if it just kind of stays where it's at and goes up a little bit, you could get this golden cross, right? That's where the 50 moving average crosses up above the 200, right? When this has happened in the past, okay, it means longer term out, right, days and weeks, you usually get some really good moves. There's one right there, nice big move. Fake out didn't happen right there, right? It didn't cross. Right here it crossed, boom, nice big move. And so keep that, and so be aware of that when it comes to Tesla and those earnings. Now, looking at earnings tomorrow, I've already talked about this, but it's a busy day. Right before the belly opens, you got Spotify, UPS, GM, Coca-Cola, Lockheed Martin, and then the afternoon is going to be fun because you're going to end up with Tesla, Google, Enphase, Visa, Texas Instruments, Chubb, Capital One, which we'll find out a little bit about the consumer when it comes to that one. And then nothing really major on the economic home front, but you do have existing home sales and Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index coming out after the bell at 10 o'clock. And so let me know your predictions down there for Tesla and Google. And obviously from here on out, I'm back from vacation. Everything's going to be the same. The updates will be the same. And so we'll get back in the swing of things and stuff. So again, appreciate all your support. Hopefully, eventually this whole debacle. Let me know if you've been affected at work or your company has been affected by this tech glitch between Microsoft and CrowdStrike and stuff. I'm just curious because I know I'm hearing a lot of you tell me it has. So just curious if it's finally fixed or not. And so we'll see what happens with that company. Let me know what you think a good dollar cost average price would be on that one. Let me just think about Chipotle as well and also Tesla. So anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.